Exactly. It's finding that dopamine hit, isn't it? And I know you did your dopamine crawl when you visited London, and it's that idea of how do you get the sort of healthy dopamine that fuels you forward to your next thing that you're going to do, but without kind of bringing you down in the way that the candy bars can hit the dopamine button, but they cause a lot of other problems.
Yes, exactly. So the dopamine crawl revolved around this special chocolate shop that I found in London that really excited me. And I thought it was the perfect example of how the instant you walk into this shop, that smell of chocolate just overwhelms you. And it's so exciting. And and they make it in a different way. They shave the chocolate and they give you a huge pile of shavings and they mix milk to make a hot chocolate. So it's like a visual performance in addition to a great smell. So it really excites you. And I saw that other people were so excited. Everybody had their video cameras out, taking pictures of this guy making these piles of shaving. He actually had to make people line up and take turns. So what happened on the dopamine crawl in London was a little surprising and yet not surprising. So first, a great group of people came and we were talking and talking. And so it wasn't really about the chocolate in the end. Um, and I wanted to have a number of stops. And so because the chocolate shop was tiny, I picked a large coffee shop next door. And the large coffee shop had all of these cakes. And after people ate cake, they didn't want any chocolate. So we ended up trampling through this chocolate shop and not buying anything. So I ended up with a bad feeling like, oh, I feel that. But on the other hand, there was something really fun. The woman behind the counter who was making this chocolate. Oh, here's the other thing I forgot to say. It was hot out. It was so hot out that she said the chocolate wouldn't shave. So they were shaving it in the basement where it was cool and then just bringing it up. So you see how like that was a wave that we had to ride the waves. So I felt bad for this woman. So I told her why we were there. And I told her that what I was interested in was the great feeling you have when you walk in is going to end. And that's the thing, is something exciting in your life is going to end. So how did she feel about this, like walking in every day and having the great feeling? And then how does it end for her? So that was funny because on the one hand, she went on, and I have a video of her. She went on and on about how great she feels every day when she walks in. And then she said, yeah, then she loses it in about an hour. But she didn't say much about that because I think she didn't want to derogate her employer on tape.
It's a beautiful shop. I know it well. I think I told you that my office is around the corner, and it really does give you that lift when you walk in. So
Yeah, it's very funny. So anyway, I notice on LinkedIn that you do very beautiful infographics to explain important concepts such as the 4 happy chemicals. And you've managed to, I often use maybe African animals like gazelles and monkeys and lions, and you have transformed that into aquatic animals. I put the infographic in my newsletter, and I'm wondering like how you get these ideas to do these infographics.
well, books like yours, actually, Loretta. So I read your Habits of a Happy Brain, and I've always been interested in the neuroscience and the chemicals that go on in the brain. And I'm often asked by coaches, well, how do you remember what each one does? And I find that when I'm teaching, bringing visuals or metaphors to what we're doing really, really helps people. So everything we do at Ride the Wave has a general kind of beach, surfing, aquatic theme. And as I was reading your book, you obviously link a lot to animals as well. And I was thinking, oh, I wonder if we could kind of make a link to animals here. So I started just sort of playing around, doing a bit of research. And I thought, well, a dolphin, the dopamine dolphin, that works really well. Dolphins are really great at learning. They get rewarded when they kind of jump through a hoop, although, hopefully not so much anymore. But, I'm old enough to remember going to the zoo when I was younger and that happened. happened. Hopefully that doesn't happen so much anymore, but dolphins are known for kind of learning and being rewarded. And then I was delighted to read that the sound that dolphins make, and I know you know a lot more about this, Loretta, than I do, just a bit of superficial reading revealed that the sound that dolphins make when they squeak to each other actually releases dopamine in their systems as they talk to each other. So I thought, well, the dopamine dolphin, and I love alliteration. I think alliteration works really well. So that felt like a good animal to represent the dopamine. And then the oxytocin octopus worked as soon as I came up with it. I thought, well, what begins with O and lives in the sea? An octopus. And I was like, well, that works really well because, you know, it's often known as the cuddle hormone, isn't it? Or the love hormone, oxytocin is shorthand. So you've got 8 arms to have a cuddle with. So just as a sort of little reminder of what it does. I'm always want shorthand for coaches because when you're in the moment in a coaching session, you've got all sorts of tools and models. And probably the most common question I'm asked by coaches is, which tool do I use when? So you need little hooks to help the coaches kind of think of things. So the oxytocin octopus was born. And then the serotonin starfish, because, you know, in reading your work and understanding more about serotonin, that idea of reward or being the star or receiving attention. So the starfish, and then a sort of happy coincidence is that obviously you get serotonin from being on the beach or in the sunlight, and that's where you'll find a starfish. So that was how we came up with starfish. And then we start to scrape the barrel or the bucket a little bit as we get to the end for the endorphins, because there aren't many sea creatures that begin with an E, but we came up with an electric eel because this idea of the TENS machine, which some of your listeners might know from kind of sports injuries or pregnancy, that you put it on for contractions to ease the pain. The electricity from a TENS machine stimulates the production of endorphins. So it's slightly tenuous link there, but that idea of the electric eel, and I like that idea. I think maybe when you think of an electric eel, of that sort of fizzing with energy. And we also associate endorphins obviously quite heavily with exercise as one of the key ways they are produced. So hopefully people will sort of go with me on that slightly tenuous link because of the E's for the electric eel endorphins.
Sure. And also it's pain is what triggers it. And so the electric shock is a pain image. That's great. I really like that. So you teach the 4 chemicals to your coaching students, is that it? And how do they respond and how do they use it in their coaching practice?
So it's quite new because I only read your book when I got in touch with you last year, and we created this model off the back of it. And so some of the coaching students that have been through the program previously, we always invite them back. Community is a big value for us. So every season we run a kind of refresher session, like leap into summer, harvest your mind, wipe out winter blues. And so we're always dropping this new content in. So not all of our coaches have had the pleasure of learning this kind of model. But what I hear is that people use it as a little educational drop to their coachees. So actually somebody did this to me in a practice session the other day, and it was brilliant. He said to me, one of our coaches said, Lucy, it sounds to me like you need a serotonin holiday and not a dopamine holiday, because I was saying everything was just going so fast and it's all a bit hedonistic and I need to relax. And I hadn't made that connection. And just his quite basic knowledge, he'd not heard of these chemicals before, he'd not read your book, which is now on our reading list, but we'd given like a short 10-minute overview introducing the dolphin, the octopus, the starfish, and the electric eel. And he felt confident enough to just sort of mention that. And that was a really, really helpful kind of reminder of, look, these are the chemicals, they're doing different things. Maybe you need to kind of have a little bit more serotonin on your next holiday and a little bit less dopamine, and stop chasing things. And so it's fascinating to see how our coaches use it. Some will pull out the model and say, I know you've shared the model and it's got the test tube. So a visual is helpful to say, how do we top this chemical up? How do we top this chemical up maybe? What do you need a little bit more of? And just a little bit of that basic understanding. Of course, it's so much more complex than that, but somehow we need to simplify this science to get it out there so people can feel, okay, I might not be feeling great. This wave might have hit. I might be feeling a bit low, but what's a couple of simple things I can do to just give myself a little natural and healthy boost?
Good, good. Although I have to say, frankly, I'm not a believer in the theory about getting serotonin by sitting in the sun, except in the sense that you feel like a star when you get some fabulous beach holiday. It may give you a sense that you're socially important if that's the way you've received
Interesting.
social importance. And I know it is based on research that came out from the massage industry, and it says that a massage increases your serotonin. So I'm not a believer in a lot of the things that are on the internet.
What do
um,
you think is the
but
best way? What do you think is the best way to get serotonin?
well, see, this is the thing. It's not politically, socially acceptable to talk about this one up urge. And yet we see that it's there. We see that it's a huge driver. And in fact, it's a huge driver of unhappiness, despite the fact that we have quite safe, comfortable lives, because everybody has a natural urge to be special. And 7 billion other people in the world want to be special. So if you feel disappointed in that impulse, you'll drive yourself crazy. So you have to understand and accept the impulse and to know that it's just your mammal brain. So first, I tell people, a lot of people would think you might be what we call chasing success. And like, if I were big, then I would be happy all the time because I would always be in the one up position. But then we know that that doesn't really make you happy, because any one up position you have, you risk losing it. So the bottom line is to not dwell on other people one upping you, but to feel good about your own one up moments. And that's hard. First, because you have to create it in your own mind, but second, because it's so taboo. It's like, oh, I'm not supposed to care about being one up. I'm supposed to put other people up. So that's a good thing. It's a good way to make friends, but it's not the way to get serotonin. So in sum, I always say, put yourself up without putting others down, and to put yourself up in your own mind without waiting for the world to applaud you, because most people do not get the world's applause until after they die. So if you think of anybody who now gets the world's applause, usually they're dead. So